Hi everybody, today I'm going to show you how to refurbish a console table. So this is the table here. The reason we want to change it, change the colour of it is because the timber just doesn't look like it belongs in the hall where it is. So we're going to give it a good sanding and painting. So what you'll need is some sandpaper or an electric sander with 40, 120 and 280 grit sandpaper or pads, some white spirits, some primer paint, clear varnish and some white paint. So I brought the table outside because I was going to use an electric sander and it's going to be lots of dust and you want to be in a wide open space and wearing a mask as well, preferably. I took out the drawer as well and took off the handle of the drawer because I don't want to sand or paint over that. It's a nice brass handle, so we said we'd keep that. So if you don't have an electric sander, it'd be handy to have a sanding block so you can press hard while you're sanding. Here I was using P120 grit just to give it a light sand at first, but using the sander I was using P40 grit pads. This is kind of rough and it would be good for getting the varnish off the top of the table. When I sanded the top of the table, I just gave the rest of it a light sanding with the sander as well, just to get any dirt off and to clean off the varnish a small bit and any extra dirt. Then I used some P280 grit sandpaper to sand the top of the table down nice and smooth. Underneath the tabletop then you have this moulding, it's curved so you need to get in there with your fingers just to get all the varnish off that and get it back down to the bare timber. Once I had the table sanded, then I used some white spirits to wipe off any dust that was on it. The white spirits is great for pulling the dust out of the little pores in the wood and it gives it a real good cleaning, and this should be done after sanding and before you put on any varnish. You just have to let it dry and it's ready to be varnished then. So I taped around the underneath of the top of the table because I didn't want to get any clear varnish on the bottom half of the table because that's going to be painted white later. So once I've it taped up nice and neat right up to the underside of the tabletop, so I could be a little bit more careless with the varnish then. So I'm using Ronseal interior varnish. It's a clear gloss varnish and I brushed it on just like this. Not too heavy, along the grain, using the brush. When I was letting that dry, I started to paint the drawer with primer. So you can see here the lovely little dovetail finger joints on the drawer. So I used primer to paint the drawer first. So what is primer? So we put primer on before we paint. It's like a glue that sticks to the timber and it's easier for the paint to stick to as well. So primer paint is a preparatory coating put on materials before painting. Priming ensures better adhesion of paint to the surface, increases paint durability and provides additional protection for the material being painted. So if you're painting onto existing furniture that has varnish on it already, it's a good idea to use primer because the paint will stick to it better. So there's the drawer before and after. There it is primed, and while I was waiting for that to dry then I was able to give the tabletop another few coats. So altogether you'd want to be putting about 4 coats of varnish. So here I want to show you about getting rid of these little drips or these little clumps of varnish. What happens is the corner of the table catches the varnish on the brush and it leaves it in a lump. So you want to make sure to get rid of all of these. So just by brushing off the edge like this. So the way it happens is when you brush the opposite way, the corner of the table just catches the glue or the varnish and you need to make sure and wipe all of those away after. Same with the paint. So when the top of the table was done, I taped that up then so I could be a little bit more careless around the corners here with the brush. I didn't have to worry about getting any white primer or paint on the top of the table. Makes the job a whole lot easier. So just when you're painting as well, make sure and get rid of any of these little drips of paint because it's very hard to get rid of those afterwards when it's dry. Just double check inside all the different legs and the top and make sure all these little drips are gotten rid of. So there's the table as it is. I didn't have to paint in here where the drawer goes because the drawer slides in nice and easy. After 2 coats of primer and a coat of white paint, I gave it a light sanding with the P280, and my last 2 coats of paint I put on with a roller. The reason I put it on with the roller is this covers over the brush strokes and it leaves a really smooth white finish on the legs and on the table. It's a good way to finish the painting. Nice and smooth, and try not to leave any lines as well. So when I pulled off the paint, you can see here the tabletop has finished really well and you can see how well it looks. So once I finished the drawer and had it painted, all I had to do was stick back on the handle push it into the two holes that are already there and screw it in from the back. Just like so. And that's it then. So there you have it. So this is what we had. This is the before, completely out of place, and this is the after. So the tabletop is more suited to the floor, and the white paint just fits in with everything around it. So thanks a million for watching. I hope you learned something.